or through data centers. So it is going to be stored somewhere onto the storage devices. So we as a Seagate, you must be thinking what Seagate is actually doing into cloud. So Seagate plays a very important role, very vital role, because the data which is stored on your storage device is finite and different storage devices. So the kind of the digital universe, we talk about the digital universe, the data which is being created in different formats, be it through individuals who is downloading music while downloading videos, clicking photos, making videos and movies, storing data somewhere onto the storage device. Okay, or in office environment, we generate a lot of emails, a lot of data being generated through ERP modules and also many things. So the digital universe is so big that it's going to be equal to around 40 zettabytes by 2020. So if you look at currently, it's like 10 zettabytes or so. By 2020, the studies says that it's going to be equal to 40 zettabytes, which will grow at a CAGR of 42%. Now, how? What's happening from the technology point of view? The progression is going towards the open solutions. If we look at the chart from the cloud data center point of view, there are actually cloud has making it disruptive for the enterprise market. There are large enterprises, the large data centers who are using proprietary based solutions. They are, if you look at from the cost wise, they're high, but from the scalability or size and speed point of view, it is lower. So, but now cloud has become so popular. There are small companies, the big size companies require cloud services to store their data. So they are looking for providers who can give them infrastructure as a service, storage as a service, or platform as a service. So the progression is shifting towards the open solution, which helps cloud service providers, system builders for the greater system optimization. We are seeing that the technology is being changed every 6 months. So the open solutions also help the faster innovation, also help smart technology refreshes, and at the end of the day, it provides the massive scalability and the lower data center operation cost. So that's the progression we are seeing happening from to the open-based systems, open-based stacks and softwares. The focus of the stack is shifting from the traditional, you can say like hardware or proprietary software or closed architecture to more towards the software-driven approach, towards the open source-based platforms, which basically provides opportunity to the system builders, to service providers to commodize the storage device, the servers devices, the components being used to build up the entire data center. So from our point of view, from a storage point of view, you all must be aware of it, that the data which is being created by different applications into cloud environment, it is basically categorized into 4 different parts. The hot data, the warm data, the cool data, and the cold data. Okay, so when we talk about the data center environment, the hot data is generally 10%, which is frequently used. Okay, and the data which is residing at the rest is basically called the cold data. So how it is related to the storage from the total cost of ownership. The hot data is basically more of IO centric, okay, and the cold data is more of a data centric. If we take an example like hot data requires highest performance, it requires highest availability, but at the same time it requires lowest latency and lowest data footprint. So the IO centric means the applications which you use to store these kind of data requires like online transaction kind of processing, real-time kind of processing. For example, you put a query and you get the reply. In general terms, like when we pull out money from ATM, you immediately get the message on your mobile phone. Okay, so that's the real-time kind of processing. So that kind of application requires more of IO-centric kind of approach. So there, what you look at is the cost per IOPS in the storage device. And if we look at the cold data, the data which is at rest and not being frequently used, but at the same time is very critical to run a business. So there you require highest data storage devices, because the data will consume a lot of terabytes. Okay, so we help data centers to choose what kind of drives should be used to handle hot data, and what kind of drives should be used to design a storage device to recite cold data.
One
Yes,
question.
sure.
So this hot data, hot data and warm data falls under structured data category.
Right. Correct.
So typically, is this data generated through the database operations, or how is it?
Data is generated through the servers, the applications we use.
Okay. So you gave an example of a transaction data, right?
Right.
Typically, people will write that into a RDBMS system.
RDBMS, like.
So
Correct.
you are saying that the database you use these storage
Right.
services to store.
Right. So basically, what happens? See, if we look at the environment, data either will be a mission critical data or a business critical data. Right. Mission critical data is something which requires your RDBMS, your online gaming, real time processing kind of thing. So what you look at there is the IOPS. The input output per second should be the highest from the performance point of view. Okay, you generally don't look at the capacity there. Okay, because the size of that data will not be too big, because that data is end of the day going to be shifted into the cold data, right? That is the frequently used data. So here, to handle this part, you require the storage device which can deliver highest IOPS with the lowest latency for the real-time processing kind of thing. But on the cold data, which is more of a archival kind of thing or a backup kind of thing, which is not frequently used, generally require storage devices with lot of capacity, like multi terabyte of capacity, because that will have data which is being generated daily, is going to be reside somewhere for the archival or for the backup purpose. So that's how we categorize it.
When we say that the hot data is 10%, warm data is 20%, and the remaining cold data is 70%, how do we arrive at this kind of a metering?
It is just a generic example, actually.
Okay,
Just a generic example.
Do we have tools, because to be realistic in data centers, when we are storing data and we are backing it up on tapes or onto the medias, so we do have, we do know that how much amount of data that we are backing it up on the tape, right? The amount of utilization that is going on. So I know for a reason that this is a cold data.
Correct.
But at the same time, when it is application centric and the data is getting used by the application, how do I arrive at a conclusion that, okay, I might require this kind of a storage that will service the particular tier of application, which is hot data or warm data?
No, whichever getting frequently used.
Now, how do I get the metering which to be done on my data center?
No, you may have your own application kind of thing, right? Your customer point, it's something a customer centric one.
Yeah, it depends, I think, case to case basis.
Like customer centric. Your own customer, if they want to have it repeatedly use up, or you use up by your own.
So as I am moving into the cloud solution, right? When I am taking storage as a service,
right?
And when I have this particular as a problem, how do I address that? Are there any tools available?
No,
or
we don't provide tools, but what we mention is like we categorized our own old storage segments into 3 categories. Like one
yes,
is.
I do understand that you have your own categorization, but
right.
at the same time, I'm basically a customer.
Right.
I don't know what kind of data that
So
is.
we have a chart, like whatever comes under OLTP, like online transaction.
Okay, so you have a metering system, or a table that refers to where
right.
we can put it.
Right, OLTP kind of thing, all the applications oriented will be coming around the mission critical one. Whereas the database, like data warehousing kind of thing comes under the business critical one. Whereas just for a backup kind of thing comes on its desktop. So this is what we categorize. So whatever comes in the OLTP section will be a mission critical. That comes under the BOM, the port data.
But-
Whereas, yeah.
But to add, my friend's point, what about the factory data? Some
Factory data would be coming around, it categorize it
No,
again. Explain.
some of the factory data would be under warm segment or hot.
Right,
The
right.
remaining would be, it's both.
That's what I mean.
Mixture.
If you want to make a read, sequential read and write. If you just put for a read kind of thing, then it's like a warm data. If you do a read and write, then it comes. It comes around warm data. Sorry. Whereas if you just read it out, then it comes around cool data.
I believe most of the factory data would be both, warm and cool. It will never come under cold because it's a daily.
Like there will be archive kind of thing, so that comes under cold. If you have archive data, then it comes under cold data.
So the factory data you will never archive, right? So it will be.
I don't mean about the factory data. Just like you have got a customer list of customers, old customers details. So and then you got a financial transaction of old financial years. So that all comes under the cold data.
This configurational data comes under which category?
Sorry.
Configurational data, like.
Configurations and all will come under warm data because you regularly use up.
So once you have some user created, we don't want to create it again and again. So that user profile will go to the
User and all will come under warm data because that is already got set. It's not at all even a data. It's like a configuration setting.
right.
It's not at all a data. It's the command configuration setting. So it won't come under this category at all.
What happens in the search engine then?
Search engine wise, it depends. A search engine all, if we got to have almost it's warm data kind of thing. It won't be a OLTP thing. But it won't, only,
See, this is the example.
Only the areas wherever we do a real transaction, like we do a credit card transaction, or if you do a real-time processing things, real-time searching things, real-time data if you fetch up. So those are all come.
Maybe you can take this example.
That's
Their
what I mean.
application is different.
The first, Baidu example is Baidu is like a search engine. So it comes around, online gaming and application search will be comes under the, first warm data. Whereas, just if you have Windows Azure, like that is around comes under the cloud kind of thing. That also comes under the warm data kind, because you have a search engine kind of thing. So you may do a real-time search. So all those categories whatever mentioned here are all warm data kind. Online gaming, real-time search, and edit data files, nodes and all. So all those areas, all the applications mentioned over here, one comes under the warm data. So for this we have the list of application, list of drives, enterprise drives we have. So that comes with a RPM. Moreover, it's a motor speed, like drive motor speed. It comes with 10K RPM or 15K RPM, so that you can get a higher performance. So we have got a list of enterprise drives, and also we have got SSD models like solid state drives models, so that it can provide higher IOs. Input output per second. So that kind of things and all comes under the enterprise area, for which we need to be having this warm data search engines.
So basically,
what is the costing difference between each of the categories in terms of percentage? In terms of percentage, what is the cost difference between each of the categories?
In terms of price, in terms of cost, there won't be a much difference. All this comes under the enterprise criteria. Whereas there may be a difference between enterprise and a desktop environment. There will be something around 10 or 15, even 20% difference in terms of price. But it won't be a difference. There won't be a big difference between all these categories.
No, but if you
see how cost will derive. For example, like if you are just taking an example, like if you are making a storage box or a storage solution to handle critical application. Okay, critical applications, mission critical application, you won't require a very high amount of data storage. Okay, but you would require a storage which can deliver highest IOPS. In highest IOPS, highest category, we have drives which is in 10,000, 15,000 RPMs. Okay, 10,000, 15,000 RPMs are generally not like in the capacity of 3 terabyte or 4 terabyte or 2 terabyte. They are the capacity of 300 GB, 600 GB, or a 900 GB SAS kind of drives. So you require, in these kind of applications, you require capacity of, let's say, 10 terabyte or a 50 terabyte or a 100 terabyte. Just take an example. But when you look at the bulk storage, where you require capacity of 500 terabyte, so the cost of 600 GB drive, which is giving you highest IOs because of 10,000 and 15,000 RPM, the same drive you may not require to handle bulk storage, right? Because it is more of a data centric. And you would prefer to go for a drive with highest capacity like 4 terabyte, okay, which consumes less space, less racks, and can give you opportunity to build a storage box of 200 terabyte with a lesser number of drives, lesser number of racks than to use a 600 GB SAS drive. So from the cost point of view, it depends basically what application you are using and how you are designing the storage for your customer.
On what basis did you classify the last one under warm storage? It should be cold, right?
It is a cold storage. This one is the cold.
Yeah, you can't use a normal desktop or laptop
Can I make a
drive.
suggestion, please? Could you please take questions at the end of the talk?
Sure, okay.
It's already 12 o'clock.
Okay. So we have very less time, so I'll just finish it off fast. So this is the case study of one of top social networking site who is using or drives for different storage applications. So there are four storage systems they are using to handle social graphs, OLTP database, which is trans-hot kind of application. It requires more of a read optimized. Because of the highest IOS performance. So they use SSD drives to handle this kind of data. But if you look at their to handle their data warehouse, which is more of a cold storage, they use our enterprise value 3.5 inch or enterprise desktop 3.5 inch drive, which is available up to capacity of 4 terabyte. So this is one of the example of how these large data centers are designing their storage boxes based on the different level of application. See how to how to address the hyperscale challenges. Basically defined when we talk about the environments like cloud and data center where the applications are really very critical. There are four important things which we look at: the scalability, the security, the manageability, and the efficiency of the entire storage solution. So how hard drives helps you to handle these hyperscale challenges. I'll cover each and everything. There are three features being introduced in our enterprise class hard drives. All enterprise class hard drives. One is the self-encrypting drive. It's called SCD drive. Another one is the instant secure erase, the ISE drive, and the third is the power choice. All these three things are very, very important when you design a storage application. Self-encryption drive technology eliminates CPU cycles for protecting data at rest. Basically, when you enter the data, it gets encrypted. There is an encoding key, and when you take it out, it decrypts and you see the actual data. So it's all encrypted one. So even if your drive is stolen, nobody can retrieve the data. Nobody can, no third party even recovery software can take out the data because it is encrypted there. So it is required a decrypting algorithm to get the data decrypted.
So which layer it is decrypted?
It's in the media itself. I'll show you the example after this slide. Then we have an instant secure erase or cloud drives, specialized cloud drives, which is used to handle high workloads kind of thing. Has a feature called instant secure erase, which cuts drive retirement time from hours to milliseconds. Okay, so again there is a host software sitting onto the media, which helps cut down the drive erase time from 39-40 hours to just less than 1 second. And then the most important thing is the power choice technology, because when one data center or a cloud service provider design a solution, power becomes a very, very important aspect for him. Okay, and being a storage device, being hard drives, can contribute a very good amount of the bill of material. So power choice technology basically helps reducing power consumption by up to 50%. How it does? Because the enterprise drives with power choice. That's it. Mitesh is coming again and again. So that's how your data goes inside the media. Media has an encoding key. It gets encrypted. Seagate SSD drives has a software which is running onto the host, which encodes the data which you are entering. Okay. Instant secure erase basically works based on the host software which is there on the media. So when you erase the drive, it doesn't take hours to data gets erased. And finally, your data which is there on the drive at rest is fully protected. This is the traditional disk drive. You enter data in the traditional disk drive means the normal desktop drive which is used for your 8x5 application. The data which is there, first overwrite, you format it, then second overwrite, third overwrite. When you format the normal drives, to make sure that there is no data remain in the drive, it takes generally 39 to 40 hours. But when the drive, which is with the Seagate self-encryption feature, the data is encrypted, it just takes less than 1 second. Okay, for your data to get erased. So the amount of time one can save using these SSD features. The power choice example is, we'll take an example like number of SSDs, let's say, being used in a data center. Suppose 1 lakh drives being used in a data center. Average watt per SSD on idle mode consumes 6.73 watts. But if you enable power choice feature, what it does, it basically allows you to define the command set. Suppose your drive is on idle mode, it will consume different power. Suppose your drive is in read or write mode, when it is fully functional, it will use different power watts. So you have, so one can have facility to use how he wants to use the drive to basically save the power. So one can save 50% of the total power bill by using the power choice feature. I'll just go to this. Seagate is going to announce, is going to introduce a very unique thing called Object Storage Kinetic Platform. What this kinetic platform is? It is basically the package of 3 important things. One is the hard drive, the other one is the APIs with a set of kinetic libraries, and the drive with Ethernet connectivity. Okay, so till now you have seen the drives with either SATA or SAS interfaces, right? So when you connect a storage device with drives, you require controllers, you have to do RAID controller, RAID things and all, file managing, POS IX and all this. But with this technology, with these 3 things, you can build an environment where your application will talk to the device directly using the Ethernet connectivity. So how it will happen? Current architecture built on layers of legacy technology. You have server which is running applications, then you have file systems, volume manager, you have storage servers with RAID, RAM and all these things, and then you have devices with SAS or SATA interfaces which is handling all your data storage part. So this is your legacy technology. With Kinetic basically eliminates these 2 layers. So basically you have all your applications connected with your device using the Ethernet. So that's the thing which is Seagate going to be announced by second half of this year. So the companies who have already started qualification across the globe.
So what is the improvement in terms of speed with this technology? How much data you can write per second?
It would lower down the TCO, I mean the total cost ownership, because it eliminates out this RAID controller, everything. So if you build up a server, then you need to have a hardware cost, and it will overall reduce up the hardware cost. And via Ethernet, you are going to anyway, make out this servers.
So will you be able to write data faster?
Yeah, it would be on a cloud mode. It would be writing out on the faster anyway.
You have the network storage devices, right? Actually, that NFS comes in picture. But how different it is? Because
no, network storage is just backup storage. But we are now, transforming the whole server, whatever the servers, backup servers there, there in the cloud data storage areas and data centers. So that we are going to transform that via Ethernet mode.
So you will have application running inside the
server?
server?
Exactly. We are going to provide a application with libraries, kinetic libraries, and we are going to have a hard drive with Ethernet port, so that you can access out via Ethernet. So no, we don't need to have that kind of RAID controller, volume creation and all. So we can replace overall. So just with the apps and then kinetic library, you can access out our data, your data.
So Nitesh, can we just continue?
Yeah, so okay, we'll do one thing because we are running out of time. So what we can do, we'll have another lunch session, so we can discuss offline with whatever.
We have also set up a discussion group just in that place where you had tea, coffee. So anyone who had questions, you can do that. The other session is also starting in about a minute time. Yes.
Okay, so from my side.
Yeah, maybe one last question. Any last question we have?
So once you use the API to speak to your drives using this kinetic thing, then applications can't work with other drives. Is it right? Or
no, it won't. You mean to say like it won't get connected to the other drives? You mean the SATA and SAS interface? Yeah. Right, you're right. It should be connected to the Ethernet.
Okay, thanks. A warm round of applause for Mr. Nitesh for this presentation.
We'll take it very after
Here and talk to all of you guys. So I'm going to talk about trends in hybrid clouds. So first a few definitions. First of all, this is an evolving area of technology, and so there's not much standardization in that. But there are two terms that are frequently used. So when people talk about cloud federation, you hear that term sometimes. So people have a sort of futuristic view in mind, that is, there's a cloud of clouds, there are multiple clouds, and you can seamlessly go from one cloud to another. Hybrid cloud, people generally mean that there is an enterprise which has a private cloud, and then there's also a public cloud like Amazon to which the enterprise wants to connect. So first question is why is this the case? Why do you want to have both private cloud and public cloud? Why not go with just one? So the answer is, as you can see over here, they all have the advantages and disadvantages, and the reason why people want to do hybrid cloud, that is have a private cloud and a public cloud, is because they want to use the best of both. So for example, I'm sure all of you know that security for public clouds is a very, very sensitive area. People have the perception, so I don't want to get into an argument about this as to whether private cloud is really more secure or less secure than public cloud. But people have the perception that if I have some very sensitive data, I do not want to put it inside the public